I never imagined that my small act of kindness would lead to a heart-stopping revelation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a gray, rainy afternoon, the kind that soaked into your bones. I stepped outside, umbrella in hand, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. My heart raced. I didn't know why I saw her first, a frail old woman struggling to cross the slippery street. Her hands trembled, clutching a shopping bag. Her face crumpled in worry. Something inside me twisted. I dashed over, despite the raindrops slapping my cheeks, and offered my arm. She looked up, surprise washing over her features like the rainwater on her shoes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the storm. I felt warmth in that moment. But it was right then, right as I helped her navigate the treacherous puddles, that something shifted. A hesitation. A fleeting shadow crossed her eyes. The moment was gone in an instant. She gripped my arm tighter, her fingers digging in like claws. I could feel the tension rippling from her. Something didn't feel right. I glanced over my shoulder. The street was foggy, the people around us blurred in gray. That's when it happened. A loud crash echoed, a car skidding through the rain, tires screeching. A flash of headlights blinding fast. My breath caught. I pushed the woman aside just as the car careened past, a gust of wind striking us both. As I steadied her, the air crackled, an electric buzz. I could have sworn I saw something in her eyes, something dark, pulling me in. But just then she smiled, a strange, crooked smile. "Thank you," she repeated. But there was a flutter of panic beneath the words. I thought I was safe. But there was a flicker of doubt in her gaze, a flicker I couldn't shake. Who was she really? I could sense secrets lurking beneath her skin, swirling like the storm clouds overhead. A mysterious connection had sparked between us, but all I could do was fight the rising tide of fear. Suddenly the world felt smaller, like we were the only two people in that moment. My heart thundered in my chest. What was I missing? What truth lurked beneath that kind smile? The rain picked up, and I felt like I was drowning. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain poured unrelentingly, drowning out the sounds of the fractured world around us. I steadied the woman as she took shaky steps onto the curb, still gripping my arm as if I were her only lifeline. As we reached solid ground, she fixed me with an intensity that unfurled 1,000 questions in my mind. "Are you all right?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly against the downpour. There was something about her gaze that unsettled Metho's deep, knowing eyes seemed to peel back layers of my own thoughts, echoing fears I hadn't yet dared to voice. "Yes, dear," she said, her voice almost serenely mismatched to the chaos around us. "But you should be careful." Her frail frame curled slightly, a strange juxtaposition to the urgency in her voice. Almost as if she were trying to warn me of something far worse than the weather. I searched her face for answers, desperate to understand the shift that had formed between us. You just narrowly escaped something terrible. My heart raced, not just from the near accident, but from the residue of her words. Suddenly she seemed to be pulling away, stepping back as if the world was upside down, and she was on the verge of losing her balance. "Sometimes the path we choose isn't ours to take," she murmured, looking past me, her eyes flickering like the low light of a dying bulb. Before I could respond, she turned and shuffled away, moving with surprising speed for someone her age, disappearing into the fading light of the rainy evening. The encounter left me reeling. Why had she warned me? Why did she seem so familiar yet so unsettling? I stood frozen for a moment, the rain trickling off my umbrella, my heart thumping against my ribcage. As the adrenaline from the near miss began to fade, another wave of confusion washed over me. Thoughts raced uncontrollably. Should I follow her? What would I even say? The temptation to uncover the mystery pulled at me. I took a step, but my feet felt rooted to the pavement. Instead, I turned and began walking home. The streets, once filled with movement, felt empty now, each raindrop a reminder of her fading presence. Each step was heavy, burdened with the complexity of emotions I couldn't quite grasp. I replayed our encounter in my mind, scrutinizing every expression, searching for meaning in her cryptic warnings. Could there have been a reason behind that eerie smile? Just as I rounded the corner onto my street, I caught sight of a flickering light, a diner tucked between buildings, its neon sign sputtering defiantly against the shadows. It felt like a beacon in the gloom. I stepped inside, welcoming the aroma of coffee and pancakes, the warmth enveloping me like a hug. The few patrons scattered around the diner seemed lost in their own worlds, but an elderly man at the counter caught my eye. He seemed to be studying me, eyes twinkling with curiosity. As I approached the counter, he nodded as if he had seen me somewhere before. "Long day?" he asked, his voice gravelly yet kind. "Just a strange encounter," I confessed, feeling an inexplicable pull to share the oddity of the afternoon. He smiled knowingly, a soft, pained expression overlaying his features. "Sometimes the universe sends us signs. It's up to us to decode them." He gestured towards the seat next to him. "Got a moment for some sage advice?" Hesitation coursed through me. Was it wise to open up to a stranger? But the allure of understanding tugged harder than my skepticism. I took a seat, and just as I began to speak, an ear-splitting crash erupted outside. We all turned instinctively toward the door. The world outside, flickering momentarily into view, a stack of folding chairs had fallen violently off a nearby delivery truck, scattering debris like projectiles. Just then, amidst the chaos, I glimpsed someone amidst the wreckage. The old woman from earlier, standing stock still, her presence rooting me in place. This time I didn't feel a spark of connection or warmth. Instead, dread washed over me. I stood up, heart racing, pulse pounding in my ears. Her expression had changed, shadows danced across her face, confusion, fear, something darker. "Stay back!" I heard her shout, looking directly at me this time, her eyes widening. The warning laced with terror, the kind that knotted deep in my stomach. But it was not just the shadowy fear that clutched at me. There was something in her gaze that screamed for understanding. A chilling sense of urgency wrapped around me, and I found myself taking a step towards her, wanting to help, wanting to know. In that instant, a revelation hit me with the force of the storm outside. This was no ordinary encounter. What was about to happen would change everything. Before I could speak, the woman took a step back, her voice breaking. "It's too late for me. Save yourself." And then she stumbled, falling amidst the chaos, and time froze. In the split second that followed her desperate plea, the world around me fell away, a void swallowing the sounds of the diner, the clinking of cutlery, the bubbling coffee machine, even the murmurs and laughter of the few patrons. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heart, echoing the weight of her warning. "Save yourself." The words replayed in my mind, tangled with confusion and fear. I couldn't process them. What did she mean? I felt as if I were caught in storm-tossed waters, every instinct screaming to save her, yet my body was frozen in place. Put down roots and grow, they say, but now all I wanted was to uproot myself and reach out to grasp the old woman's thin, trembling hands, to pull her from the brink of whatever unknown fate awaited her. But as soon as I took a step forward, the diner's door swung open. A rush of chilly wind accompanied a figure stepping into the diner. A tall man dressed in dark clothing, soaked from head to toe, but his presence radiated an unsettling control. He scanned the room, finally locking onto the woman on the floor, and my breath caught in my throat. "Renata!" The name slipped from his lips, sharp as broken glass. The worry etched into his features morphed quickly into something more menacing. "Stay away!" Renata cried out again, panic lacing her voice as she tried to scramble backwards. My heart ached at the sight. This fragile woman, who only moments ago seemed so ethereal, was now a figure of desperation. The man took a step toward her, his determination unwavering. "You can't run from this anymore. You need to come with me." His voice was steady, a chilling contrast to the chaos surrounding us. The little light that remained in Renata dimmed further as she shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "Please," I interjected, my voice breaking through a haze of shock. "You can't take her." He turned his gaze toward me, and in that second, I felt a terrible bell tolling, an echo of an impending darkness. "Stay out of this, kid. You don't know what you're dealing with." But before I could process anything, before I could think of the repercussions of my statement, the diner erupted into a cacophony of shouting and movement. Patrons were rising from their seats, fear etching their features as they scrambled toward the back of the diner, some stumbling, others pushing past me in a frantic bid to escape. Renata, however, remained rooted to the floor, defiance now etched on her face. You don't understand. I was embedded in choices intertwined with destinies. I won't let you take that from me. Her voice was a quiet storm, and I felt the air vibrate with an energy that seeped into my bones. Suddenly I understood. There existed a vast world beyond the mundane, a world I'd only begun to scratch the surface of. Standing beside her, that fragile old woman, was the key to unlocking something profound and terrifying. Renata, please, called out. What's happening? What do you need me to do? She turned to me, the moment suspended between us like a tapestry woven with despair and hope. If you're ever going to choose a path, make it the right one. You cannot let fear dictate your choices. Her voice was both a prayer and a warning, a concept that made my heart race. The man stepped closer, closing the distance. The tension hung between us like a heavy mist, each breath tasting of uncertainty. This isn't a choice, Renata, he said, his tone a low growl. This is a reckoning. The time for hiding is over. Suddenly Renata staggered, grasping the edge of a nearby table for support. As if on cue, the lights flickered then dimmed, plunging the diner into an ominous twilight. An electric tension skated through the air, and before I could react, the shadows flickered across Renata's face, illuminating something urgent behind her eyes, a message, a part of her story perhaps, that I hadn't yet deciphered. She glanced at me, and in that brief moment, I saw raw vulnerability blended with fierce determination. You have to believe me, she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. I see your path intertwined with mine. It's not too late for you. The diner's atmosphere morphed as the silent weight of her words lingered, sparking a sense of dread and inevitability. What are you not telling me? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice as I tried to make sense of everything swirling around us. But before she could respond, the lights flickered more violently, plunging us into darkness. A scream erupted from the back of the diner, and chaos unfurled like a nightmarish bloom. The last I saw of Renata was her silhouette fading into the dark, and then nothing. The tall man lunged toward her, and I lunged after him, but a piercing silence swallowed the space. Time froze, suspended in a flickering of shadows, and I began to feel gravity's pull, the kind that twists your gut and tells you that the world is about to change forever. Then, a blinding flash of light erupted, illuminating the whole diner, and in that moment of brilliance, I caught sight of one last tina mark on the floor where Renata had stood, an intricate symbol swirling beneath the wood, pulsating with a haunting energy. As the light vanished, quickly plunging everything back into blackness, I was left with only one certainty. Nothing would be the same again, and the choices I hadn't yet made were echoing into my future like the sound of a heartbeat pounding, relentless, inevitable. The world around me felt like it was spinning off its axis. The diner was a chaotic whirlwind of panic, but in that moment, I was paralyzed by uncertainty and fear, a spectator to my own existence. As the blaring sirens of reality crept into my consciousness, I blinked back the darkness, willing my racing heartbeat to settle. The light was gone, leaving behind an echo of Renata's urgent whisper, a rhythm that nodded with my own pulse. Just moments after the flash, a trembling hand tugged at my sleeve. Startled, I turned to find a young waitress, Emily, her face pale beneath a cascade of auburn hair. She had been taking orders only moments before, and now she looked as though she had seen a ghost. What just happened? She stammered, her voice a fragile note oscillating between fear and curiosity. I don't know. My voice was shaky as I grasped for words, grappling with the surreal remnants of the scene that had just unfolded. Renata, she's in trouble. Emily's eyes widened with fear. That guy, he was dangerous. We have to do something. A flicker of strength ignited within me, and I grasped my resolve like a lifeline. Right. We can't just leave her. We need to find out where he took her. Within the whirlpool of confusion, I felt the stirrings of urgency take root, almost as if my soul had recognized a call to action amidst the chaos. I'll help you, Emily agreed, determination creeping into her voice. But we should wait until things settle down a bit. Let's not draw too much attention. Together we huddled near the back of the diner, the remnants of an unthinkable tranquility enveloping us. I couldn't shake the memory of Renata's eyes' green flecks, igniting like fire behind a veil of fright. She hadn't just been a fleeting encounter. She belonged to a greater narrative, entwined with my fate in a way that lingered like the fading light. For what felt like hours, we remained cloaked in shadows, listening to whispers and muffled sounds filtering through the walls. As patrons gradually returned to their seats, some still shaking, some appearing lost in a memory of their own, I felt the weight of their scattered souls pressing in. How many were cradling their own secrets, their own unspoken fears? Finally, just as the din of subdued conversations began to rise, Emily nudged my arm. "Look." She pointed towards the entrance. 2 police officers had arrived, their uniforms a stark contrast to the somber atmosphere. "Maybe they know something." The officers moved through the diner, speaking to witnesses, but all I could think about was Renata. Silently, I glanced at Emily, determination surging between us. "We need to find a way to find out where he went." Without a word, she nodded. We slipped out the back door, the fresh air hitting me like a cold wave, awakening my senses. The chill carried a scent of rain and something sharper foreboding. Stepping down the alley, we paused for a moment, looking at the surrounding buildings. The unknown stretching before us. It must be a matter of time before that man returns, I muttered, my mind spinning. If he took her, then maybe there's something in the diner that could help us. Emily raised an eyebrow, her resolve unwavering. "You think she left behind some kind of clue?" It felt implausible, yet a fire ignited in my belly. "There has to be." I turned on my heels, determination thrumming in my veins. We hurried back through the diner, eyes scanning every corner for a trace of Renata's presence. Not even fully aware of the consequences this search might unleash, my eyes settled on the spot where she had stood. The wooden floor, while seemingly ordinary, danced under the muted lighting, almost breathing with potential. "What if?" I murmured, kneeling down, tracing my fingers gently over the surface. "What if this symbol is a part of something larger?" Emily crouched beside me, her breath hitching as she spotted it too. "What is it?" "I don't know," I admitted, tracing the spirals and curves, electric energy tingling beneath my fingertips. And as I felt it pulse, something shifted like an ancient door unlocking in the depths of my soul. Then, without warning, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. Heart racing, I pulled it out and found a text blinking on the screen. It was from an unknown number. "If you want to save her, follow the mark. Time is running out." In that moment, the realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. Renata wasn't just intertwined with my fate. She was a part of something grander, and whatever I had stumbled into was as perilous as it was dark. The weight of impending doom pressed against my chest, but there was no turning back. The pieces of a haunting puzzle were beginning to slide into place, each piece a tether to Renata's fate. "Emily," I breathed, looking up at her wide-eyed expression. "We have to go. Now." And with one resolute step forward, I felt the ground beneath me crack and shift, destiny pulling me toward an invisible tether that had the power to unravel everything I had ever known. The chill of the night air hugged my skin as Emily and I stumbled out into the darkness, the diner fading behind us, each step heavier than the last. The weight of the text I had just received lingered in my mind, feeding my imagination with shadows of what might await us. "If you want to save her." Those words echoed, each syllable a pulse of anxiety that quickened my heart. We were enveloped in an almost oppressive silence, the world beyond the alley muted. The streetlights flickered above us, their light cutting through the haze of uncertainty, illuminating the unknown path ahead. "Where do we even start?" Emily whispered, her breath visible in the cold night. I took a deep breath, my thoughts racing. "The mark," I murmured, remembering the symbol I had felt under my fingertips, pulsating like a heart straining against its cage. "There has to be something more to it." Emily shifted slightly, a spark of determination igniting within her. "What if we can find someone who knows about it? Someone who can decode whatever that symbol is?" "No one can know about this," I countered sharply, panic rising like bile. "It's too risky. Whoever took Renata is dangerous. We can't trust anyone." "Not yet." She met my gaze, her resolve unwavering. "But we can't just sit around either. I mean, we need to figure this out." You said it felt like it was leading us somewhere. I could see the fire burning in her spirit, mirroring my own. "You're right," I exhaled, feeling lighter with the admission. "Let's go back to the diner. Check the staff's room. Maybe someone saw something. Anything could lead us to her." We returned, slipping through the back entrance, the faint hum of voices washing over us. But instead of fear, a sense of purpose coursed through my veins. We navigated through the scattered tables and half-empty plates, searching for an opening to the staff area. Just as we approached a door marked Employees Only, we paused. A couple of the waitstaff were gathered inside, their hushed tones weaving through the air thick with unease. "I just can't believe it," one of them said, wiping a tear from their cheek. "It's like everything turned upside down in just a moment." Emily and I shared a glance, the shared understanding a silent agreement. "We can't risk being seen," I whispered, but inside my heart ached for the fear these people were feeling. Somehow that shared experience of dread connected us all. Beyond the door, the chatter dwindled, replaced now by a deep, unresolved silence. "Let's keep moving," Emily urged softly, and I nodded, leading the way down the dimly lit corridor. The staff room was at the end, the doorknob gleaming like an invitation into the unknown. With a slight push, the door creaked open, revealing an unkempt space filled with stacked plates, aprons, and discarded menus. I glanced around frantically, my eyes landing on a corkboard covered in tattered notes and photographs. I walked over, the intrigue pulling me closer as I scanned the board. One particular note stood out, written in hurried scrawl: "Beware the mark, it calls for those who listen." My heart leaped, memories of my own journey flashing vividly before me. I reached up to take a picture with my phone when suddenly, another message buzzed, this time a call from the same unknown number. I hesitated but answered. "Hello? Time is of the essence," a gruff voice crackled through the line. "You're already in danger. The mark is what binds her fate to yours, but it also marks you. If you refuse to listen to the clues, you'll lose her forever." "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling but fueled by an unyielding need to protect Renata. "Where is she?" A laugh, cold and devoid of warmth, echoed back. "You seek to uncover secrets buried deep. But remember, knowledge comes at a cost. Learn too much and the past will come knocking on your door." The line went dead and I felt the blood drain from my face. I turned to Emily, who looked equally shaken. "What was that about?" she asked, urgency bubbling in her voice. "They know about us," I whispered, my breath coming in quick bursts. "There's more to this mark than I realized. And they're not just after Renata, they're after us too." The weight of that knowledge crashed down, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the air grow thick with despair. "We can't stop. We have to decipher this mark and find her. That's how we'll stay one step ahead." But as I looked around the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Unease crept in, tendrils of dread wrapping tightly around my chest. Just then, a crashing sound echoed from the diner's main area, the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. "Go!" I shouted, jerking Emily's arm as we bolted for the exit, adrenaline pumping through my veins. We burst into the chaotic din of the diner once more, only to find the scene had changed dramatically. In the center of the room stood a figure, his face shadowed but unmistakably familiar, a tableau of fury that resonated with danger. And in the corner, locked in place by shock, was a glimmer of green that stole my breath away. Renata wasn't lost after all. She was here, but as I tried to step forward, the figure lurched into action, positioning himself menacingly between us and her. "You shouldn't have followed the mark," he spat, a sinister smile curling on his lips. "Now you'll wish you hadn't." In that instant the truth sunk in. We had only just begun to unearth a darkness that could consume us all. And the battle for Renata's life had just taken a turn that would change everything. The figure stepped closer, the air thickening with a tension that crackled like electricity. I froze, uncertainty swirling in my gut as his eyes, dark and piercing, locked onto mine. Beneath the chaos, a desperate hope flickered within me. Renata was here, within arm's reach, but the man's presence was a wall I dared not breach alone. "Let her go," I managed to voice, my words quiet yet fervent, as though raising the volume could turn my resolve into reality. Emily stood beside me, her breath shaky yet steely, a mirror of my own fear braided tightly with determination. The figure chuckled, a low rumble filled with menace. "Do you understand what you're asking?" He gestured vaguely, his silhouette blocking Renata. "Every choice has repercussions, and the mark has woven you all into this web. To save her, you must delve deeper into that darkness. I won't let you take her away," Emily declared, stepping forward with an unexpected boldness that took me by surprise. "Bravery or foolishness?" he mused, tilting his head. "You've both shown glimmers of both, But the truth is, you cannot save her without forfeiting something precious of your own. My heart raced as I weighed his words. The implication was monumental. Yet I couldn't allow fear to constrict me. What do you want? I asked, forcing my voice to remain steady as I steadied my pulse, consciously beating back the desperation seeping into my lungs. If you need something, name it. Just let her go. Oh, but it isn't something I need from you, he replied, gripping a shard of broken glass from the floor, its glint a cruel reminder of the shard of dread in my heart. It's what you're willing to give. The mark isn't just a call. It demands a sacrifice. One you may not be ready to make. I felt a tremble of despair resonate through me, the enormity of his statement burrowing into my mind. Sacrifice? Was he insinuating that love for Renata was the price I would have to pay? I looked at her then, her eyes wide with fear, but also with an unspoken understanding. She knew something was coming, something we both dreaded. Her voice broke through the storm in my mind like a whisper of rain. Don't listen to him, she implored, her eyes shooting with defiance. We can find another way. We always do. But can we? I shot back, the words escaping before I could cage them. We're already caught up in this. Whatever that mark is, it's tied to us, and we have to face that. Before we could process the weight of the moment, the figure advanced, a predatory gleam in his eyes. You're being foolish. Everything you touch has been corroded by darkness. Look around you, your choices already bear the weight of consequences. He gestured behind us where the shock had led to panic, patrons fleeing and others huddled in corners, frozen in fear. The room spun, voices rising into a cacophony that drowned reason. Yet through it all, Renata stood, resolute, and in that moment, I saw the flicker of the mark reflecting in her gaze. Fight for me, please, she whispered, though her eyes were filled with unshed tears. Deep as the abyss, seeing her vulnerability broke me, and fury spilled forth. You think I won't risk everything for her? I said, taking a step toward him. I'm not afraid of the cost. But you should be, he said, his tone slick with malice. The shard gleamed ominously in his grip. Because the price you pay might not be worth the life you seek to save. We're bound by risks you cannot comprehend. And my moment of rage. I saw amidst the chaos something unexpected, a figure emerging from the back of the diner. It was a stray waitress, witnessing the tumult with an expression of fierce determination. Don't you dare! She shouted, moving toward us with a look of recognition that gripped me. She seemed to see something beyond this confrontation, a tie beyond the mark that linked the three of us. The figure narrowed his eyes as though he had noticed her too. You shouldn't meddle in things you don't understand, love. Walk away. But she pressed on. There's a chance to defy him. You don't have to do what he wants. In that moment, a sense of warmth, a defiant kindness from a stranger, radiated through me. It was in the face of adversity that sometimes people rise, and it ignited a flicker of resolve within my heart. Stay back, I growled, positioning myself in front of Renata and Emily. I won't let you hurt them. And I won't let you choose for them, he snapped back, an edge of impatience cracking through his mockery. The tension stretched taut, and fear hung so thick in the air it was almost tangible. I stole a glance at Emily and Renata, my heart pounding between protecting them and wrestling with what lay ahead. They were my reason in the storm, my anchors as this turmoil spiraled out of control. And then he lunged at us with a fierce intensity, the shard gleaming as he swung it through the space in a vicious arc. I braced myself, adrenaline surging, ready to shove Renata to safety at any cost. But when the contact came, it wasn't what I anticipated. A loud crash erupted, and instinctively shielded my face, expecting the worst. When I opened my eyes, the figure was gone, replaced by the fierce waitress who had shifted her momentum forward, colliding with him and sending the shard skittering away. Run! She shouted, urgency crackling in her voice. We didn't need to be told twice. With adrenaline propelling us, we surged toward the nearest exit, an instinctual reaction buried deep. But as we reached it, another heart-stopping moment unfolded before us. Outside, waiting in the shadows, was a vehicle. The back door swung open, revealing a pair of familiar faces I never thought I'd see again. Get in! They yelled. My heart sank in recognition. Once friends, then strangers, intertwined in the very tension that had shackled my years. Those I would have once trusted but now stood bewilderingly in the crosshairs of my worst nightmare. Go now. The waitress urged again, and from behind us, The echoes of danger clawed forward, pushing us closer to the abyss of choice. I hesitated, torn between the past and the urgency of the present. But as Renata's gaze met mine, her unwavering certainty poured strength into my veins. I took her hand, a shared decision binding us deeper into the darkness. And in the split second it took to lurch forward, I knew life as we once knew it had changed irrevocably. The unknown stretched before us, unervingly vast, and the potential costs loomed overhead like a storm. As the door closed behind us, sealing the darkness, we fled. The revelation hit harder than I imagined. A truth I never wanted to confront, but had no choice but to embrace. To save Renata, we had to plunge headlong into the abyss, and this was only just the beginning. The van roared away from the diner, the screech of tires cutting through the tension as the familiar faces turned to us with a mix of relief and something darker. I blinked against the motion, the world outside blurring as we fled into the cold night. My heart pounded not just from fear but from the chilling realization that safety, if we could even call it that, came with a price I was yet to fully understand. "Fasten your seatbelts," one of them called out, urgency in her voice. It was Jess, a former friend from a lifetime ago when we all believed in dreams that didn't involve darkness clawing at our souls. "We need to talk and we need to move." As the van hurtled into the night, I turned towards Renata, who sat beside me, her face pale yet resolute. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers. She squeezed back as though reassuring both of us that we could endure whatever lay ahead. Emily occupied the seat across from us, her eyes darting between the driver and my hand clasped with Renata's. "What the hell just happened back there?" Emily demanded, her voice a mix of panic and determination. "We barely escaped," I replied, feeling the adrenaline still in my veins. "But that man, he said sacrifices are needed. We can't ignore that." "His power comes from fear," Jess interjected, her grip tightening on the wheel as she navigated the winding road. "He thrives on our darkness. We showed him fear. We can't do that again." "Being brave doesn't feel much like bravery when you're racing against a monster," I sighed, glancing at Renata. "I won't let him take you away." "What if he already has?" she whispered, the weight of the unspoken hanging heavily between us. A small tear slipped down her cheek and I swiped it away, desperate to shield her from both the reality and her fears. "Let's start from the beginning," the other person in the back, Leo, said. He was another familiar face, though something about his eyes felt distant and wary. "How did you get wrapped up in this?" I struggled for a moment, piecing together my thoughts, letting the flicker of hope they brought settle for a moment. "It began with the mark, something we all thought was a myth. But now it feels like a brand, one that connects us to this man." Renata's breath quivered beside me. "It won't be just about us," she said quietly, her brow creased in thought. "If we allow him to gain control over us, what happens to everyone else?" I glanced at Jess and Leo, their gazes filled with understanding. "This horror is bigger than we thought," I concluded, the chilling realization cracking through my resolve. "We need to find out what this darkness is truly after." Jess nodded. "There are whispers, legends about it. We need to go to the old library. It's been abandoned, a place where the veil between our world and whatever is lurking grows thin." Suddenly the van hit a rough patch of road, swaying slightly as I clung to Renata's hand tighter. "Is it safe?" I asked, dread filtering through me. "Nothing is safe right now," Jess replied candidly, a note of gravity in her voice. "But it's better than waiting for him to find us." Just then Leo leaned forward. "We can't forget that he wants a sacrifice. If we're tied to the mark, we need to have a plan for that, or one of us will become its next victim." My stomach twisted at the thought. What if we refuse? What if we protect each other no matter the cost? "That's a noble idea," Jess said hesitantly, "but refusing the mark doesn't sever the ties. I can feel it, it's lurking within us all. We'll need to confront it together." The urgency in her tone ignited a flicker of fear, and I turned to Renata, her eyes locked onto mine in an understanding that pierced through the chaos. We shared something profound, something unexplainable. It was a pact formed through shared trauma and an unyielding desire to protect one another. As we neared a crooked sign that read Old Pine Library, an icy finger traced down my spine. Just as I was about to utter another word, the van's headlights illuminated movement, a figure standing halfway on the road. My heart dropped. "Get down!" I shouted, but it was too late. Jess swerved to avoid the figure, the van skidding towards the ditch. Everything blurred, the tires screaming against the gravel as the world tilted dangerously. With a bone-jarring crash, the van came to a halt. Adrenaline coursed through me as I struggled to comprehend the chaos around us. The darkness clung to the windshield, a figure still standing there, framed against the pale moonlight. And then came the thud, the sound echoing into the stillness as the figure knocked on the driver's side window, eyes glimmering with malignant intent. "Let me in," he whispered, a sick smile spreading across his lips. The horror etched itself deep into my mind as I felt the grip of the mark pulsating within, aching to respond not just with fear, but with something else entirely, something I could no longer ignore. I exchanged a terrified glance with Renata, and in that fleeting moment we understood. What this man sought was about to unfold, and we were standing on the precipice of an unimaginable revelation that would reshape everything we believed. As the door rattled in its frame, I realized that this confrontation would bind us closer than ever before, and the cost of our choices was looming. Would we succumb to the darkness, or find a way to resist it together? And before I could grapple with the weight of what was rising within, I heard a voice boom from the figure outside, clearer than before. "You've chosen, now pay your due." A heart-stopping dread flooded me, caught between love, fear, and the raw pull of the abyss waiting to swallow us whole. The van's interior fell silent, the air thick with a tension so palpable it felt like a living thing, suffocating as we all exchanged desperate glances. Renata's hand remained clasped in mine, trembling slightly as the figure outside continued to loom over us, an intricately wicked smile curving his lips, eyes gleaming with something that felt like predatory delight. "Open the door," the figure insisted, a mocking tenderness in his tone that turned my stomach. "I won't bite, not unless you want me to." Jess gritted her teeth, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. "Ignore him," she hissed, her voice barely above a whisper, though it carried the weight of defiance. "He's trying to lure you in." My heart raced wildly against the cage of my ribs as I wrestled with the urge to respond. Each word he spoke sent a tangible wave of heat crawling across my skin, a whisper inviting something buried deep within me to rise. "Don't listen to him, please," Renata urged, her voice strained but unwavering, even as the shimmer of fear danced in her eyes. I noticed Emily shifting, her body tense and coiled, as if ready to strike or flee, but as I met the figure's gaze, I saw flickers of memories tangled in webs of emotion, a reflection of our shared past, filled with fading dreams and laughter that no longer seemed accessible. "What do you want from us?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my effort to sound resolved. He licked his lips slowly, as if savoring the moment, before leaning closer to the window, the glint of his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that was difficult to breathe through. "What I want is simple. Your surrender. All you need to do is choose the right path. And your suffering could end." Suffering. The word echoed in my mind, stirring a storm of thoughts already brewing within. Did I even have a choice? The mark burned under my skin, connecting us in ways I was still struggling to comprehend. No. It was Leo who snapped, his voice sharp as a broken glass. "You don't get to manipulate us like this. Well, never surrender." "Ah, but you already have, whether you realize it or not," the figure responded smoothly, a disconcerting certainty in his tone. "You've dared to trespass beyond the veil. Your fingerprints are all over this night. The very essence of fear and hope binds you to me, and soon, you'll understand the true power of sacrifice. We're more alike than you think." He pressed an eerie finger against the glass, as if tracing the outline of my frame. "You're not just survivors. You're the heart of this world's reckoning." Heart of the reckoning. I felt Renata's fingers tighten around mine even as knowledge pulled me in all directions. My own heart thudded painfully, caught in a tumult between anger, confusion, and a flicker of something darkly compelling. "Things don't have to be this way," Jess broke in, her voice rising, a desperate bid against his looming presence. "We'll find the truth together. We won't let you in." The figure chuckled, low and throaty, as he leaned even closer, blocking out the light with an intensity that threatened to devour us all. "But it's already within you. The question you should ask is not whether you'll let me in, but which one of you will embrace it first." A chill raced down my spine, a cold eruption of realization. My breathing quickened as the weight of his words sank in. There was a choice looming, lurking in the shadows of my consciousness, and a quiet voice inside me, a voice that sounded like despair, whispered that the darkness was already an inescapable part of us. Just as the tension reached fever pitch, the van's engine sputtered violently, jolting us from the grip of terror. I exchanged frantic glances with Renata and the others, a spark of panic igniting in my gut. In the midst of the turmoil, I felt it again, the delicate balance between chaos and clarity, hope and darkness, tipping dangerously toward despair. And then, as if in a fever dream, I remembered the relic Jess had mentioned, the librarian's tome. Stone-cold dread gripped me then, envisioning it as our only glimmer of salvation. We had to confront whatever was lurking in the depths of Old Pine Library. But as I clutched Renata's hand tighter, the air around us sparkled with tension. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from my pocket, my phone buzzing violently, as if it were alive. I fished it out, confused and panicked, my heart racing as I glanced at the screen. A message appeared, unbidden, and my breath hitched. "They are watching you. Don't trust anyone. Find the book before they do." The clamoring in the van quieted as all eyes landed on the glowing screen, every heart in sync with an uncertain fear. "What does that mean?" Leo asked, his voice barely a whisper. I swallowed hard, feeling the creeping dread settle into my bones. "I don't know. It means we may not be the only ones searching for the truth outside." The figure left the shadows, now watching us with unmistakable interest, the smile creeping back to his lips. It solidified my fear, echoing the urgency thrumming through me. There was more at stake than our survival. We had to find the truth of the darkness, but with our fragile alliances shattered by doubt, I feared we might not be prepared for what lay ahead. Neither did I anticipate the cloak of deception surrounding us. Suddenly, an idea sparked in my mind, a whisper of hope. If we face this darkness, could it somehow forge unbreakable bonds between us, drowning out the fear? But before I could voice that thought, a bone-chilling laugh erupted outside, shattering my moment of clarity. "Your time is nearly up, little hearts. The reckoning begins." The revelation weighed heavy on my shoulders. In that instant, I knew our journey was about to plunge deeper into a darkness we scarcely understood. And with our choices echoing around the van, I held on to the only tether I had, Renata's hand, her heartbeat steady against the rising storm of uncertainty. As the figure vanished briefly into the shadows, a new visceral fear gripped me fiercely. We were standing at the threshold of a revelation that would change everything, and I could only hope it wouldn't tear us apart first. The van's engine lurched, sputtering like a wounded animal, and Jess' frantic attempts to revive it felt futile. Each sputter echoed the chaos spiraling within me, the tension thickening like fog, obscuring our path ahead. Renata's grip tightened around my hand, her palm clammy but resolute, anchoring me in this storm of doubt. "We have to move," she said, her voice steady, but hope had begun to flicker like a candle in the wind. "If we stay here, we're sitting ducks." "Are you insane?" Leo shot back, staring at the darkened figure where it melted into the shadows. "But what if he's right? What if facing those whispers within is the only way to take control?" "No," Jess interrupted, her tone sharp, unwavering. "That's exactly what he wants us to doubt ourselves, to turn on each other." The cold gnawing fear wrapped around my heart tighter. Perhaps there was truth in what Leo voiced. We were all terrified of what lurked inside us. The drumming of my pulse seemed to synchronize with the doubt, pressures building until it felt we would shatter. "Look, we can't let him manipulate us," I urged, disregarding the fear that painted our expressions. "We have to focus on finding the library. It's our only chance." I turned to Jess. "Do you remember where it is?" She nodded hesitantly, a flicker of determination sparking in her eyes. "There's a back road, it's secluded. It should be faster to get there away from prying eyes." "Then let's go," I said, my voice resolute. But just as Jess turned the key, the engine vibrated once, twice, then fell silent, resigning to despair. I felt a wave of panic rising within me as what little hope I clung to slipped through my fingers. Okay, calm down," Leo exclaimed. "Maybe we can push it, make it just a little ways?" "Not without a plan." Jess' voice wavered, a mix of frustration and fear. Yet a flicker of her relentless spirit shone through the cracks of her resolve. In that moment of desperation, I knew it was time to act. "Renata, help me out," I said, pulling her to the side, away from the others who were arguing over the van. "Can you trust me?" She nodded, uncertainty painted across her face, but her eyes were fierce. Always, without hesitation, I steeled myself and confided in her. "If it comes down to it, we must stay strong for each other. Whatever darkness comes our way, whatever temptations he throws at us, we need to remember who we truly are. I planted a reassuring smile. You give me hope. That as her lips curled up into a tentative smile, the facade of courage began slipping back into place. Beside us, the squabbling faded, and I turned my head slightly to see the figure re-emerging. A silhouette of darkness adorned in mirrors of the moonlight, a haunting specter in our reality. Before I could react, an unexpected voice shattered the night. You've brought this upon yourselves, you know? It was Emily, her gaze fixated onto the figure. You don't really think you can manipulate us? She stepped forward. We're not here to play games, the figure chuckled, the sound echoing through the still night air like a sinister lullaby. Oh darling, it's not just a game. It's your lives. I'm merely steering you towards your true fate. You want the truth, then why resist? Because it's not what you say that matters. Renata yelled back, her voice imbued with an unexpected strength. You want us to lose hope, it's your only shot. Ah, but it's already lost, he said, the featherlight tone unsettling, as though he were taking delight in our plight. Your fragile strength is painted in shades of doubt, swirls of anguish. Something inside me snapped. You may see us as fragile, but you're wrong. We're only just beginning to untangle the truth. I glanced at my friends, fueled by fierceness, connected by fear. And what you see as our weakness, that's our greatest strength. The figure's smile widened, revealing teeth like knives. How poetic. But every hero has their end. I'd hate to spoil the heart-stopping climax for you. Suddenly, the shimmering light from my phone reignited. A consistent pulsing heartbeat that contradicted the impending doom we faced. The screen flickered again and the hurried message appeared. The book is hidden behind the veil. Trust the one who dares to explore the shadows. A deep sense of clarity washed over me. It wasn't just fear we needed to confront. It was the very essence that repelled of memories, the whispers, every restless shadow woven into our lives. Hurry, I blurted, shaking the weight of ignorance from my shoulders. If we can just reach the library, we can unveil what's hidden from us. But the night brought deeper darkness, as the shadows thickened around us, yielding to something insidious. With renewed purpose, I looked toward the van, my heart racing with dread. And just then, a crushing wave of realization hit me, the tension escalating in the air. We didn't have time on our side. The figure flickered, exposing raw power, his chilling laughter echoing as he faded momentarily into the dark. You'll have your chance, but be warned. Little one's trust unfolds never as expected. I turned to my friends, a firm resolve igniting within me. We do this together no matter the cost. But just as I breathed in the comfort of unity, a low rumble interrupted the night, and my heart sank. The darkness was coming, not just enveloping the trees around us, but like a tidal wave ripe to swallow us whole. Then, out of the churning shadows, a single figure emerged, the last person I expected to see. A face long buried in our past, whose mere presence threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew. Why so surprised? The familiar voice called out, smooth as silk, dripping with seeds of chaos. I've come to help, but at what price? Caught between hope and betrayal, the revelation sent shockwaves through my already frayed fabric of trust. The ominous shadows stretched, creeping closer, and in the heart of my mounting dread stood Caleb, a name that conjured a tempest of memories. The past flooded back, shared laughter, untimely goodbyes, a friendship severed before its potential could blossom. But this was not the Caleb I remembered. He had twisted into a specter of darkness, wrapped in enigma and uncertainty. You shouldn't be here, I said, breath catching in my throat. What do you want? A smirk crawled up his lips, cool and detached, as if the raging chaos around us was merely a background score to his deliberate movements. I came to offer assistance. After all, that's what friends do, isn't it? The air shifted like a tide, and I felt the cold tendrils of doubt grip my heart. Help! Renata's voice pierced through the tension, her brow furrowed with disbelief. You've caused enough chaos already. What if I told you I could guide you to the book? He purred, his voice a sultry lure that made my skin prickle with unease. It holds the key to everything, even the darkness that binds you. But there's a price. Why would we trust you? Emily demanded, suspicion etched into her features. You've been part of this nightmare. Because you don't have another choice. He shrugged carelessly, that smile never faltering. You're racing against time now, and while you ponder your moral dilemmas, That shadowy figure will be closing in on Renata. I glanced at Renata, who stood firm despite the fear that flickered in her eyes. He's right, I whispered, clenching her hand tighter. If that's our best chance, don't you dare compromise your soul for something that may turn against you. Jess' voice rang with conviction, but echoed with the uncertainty of being stuck in an overwhelming torrent. The figure outside stepped into view, half illuminated by the pale moonlight, eyes glimmering like shards of glass. Tick-tock, little hearts. He leaned closer, the darkness swirling like a shroud around him. Choose wisely. Caleb edged closer, his dark presence seemingly intent on claiming my friend's trust. You'll need to end the cycle, and to do that you'll have to embrace the shadows. The book knows your truths, your fears. Let me help you confront it. The weight of his words hung heavily in the air as my mind flitted through the possibilities, a promise of hope, wrapped in the slick sheen of betrayal. What if we can't trust you? I said quietly, meeting Caleb's icy gaze. You want something from us. I want what everyone wants, choices, understanding. His tone dropped to something softer, almost yearning. You've all felt the calling of the mark, the pull of fate intertwining your lives more profoundly than you understand. The darkness isn't the enemy, it's a part of the tapestry. You must learn to wield it, not fear it. In that moment, I felt the weight of those words trying to encircle us like silk wrapping tighter. The tremor of fear nestled deep within me fought against a burgeoning sense of inevitability. It was true, whatever lay ahead was no longer just a story unfolding. It was a truth forged in the flames of our choices. Renata, I whispered, seeking her gaze, are we willing to confront this? Whatever shadows lurk in our past, whatever cost it demands of us. It might be our only hope. She hesitated, the flickers of vulnerability beneath her defiance illuminating the struggle within her. We fight together or not at all, she said softly, her resolve more potent than any surface doubt. We shared an understanding sparked by a single heartbeat, the reverberation of our intertwined destinies stirring within the silence that followed. So what's the plan? Emily interjected, a determined light igniting in her eyes. Caleb chuckled, a dark undertone threading through his mirth. You're already a step closer to the choice. Follow my lead and face everything you fear. But remember, he said, casting a sweeping gaze over us, the shadows will always demand a sacrifice. We exchanged anxious glances, the gravity of his ultimatum palpable. We stood on the brink, cradling our choices in shaky hands. The figure outside intensified, the cold surrounding us, edging ever closer, threatening to shatter our resolve. Then lead us, I resolved, knowing our paths were laden with darkness yet steeling myself to traverse it. We turned our backs on doubt, trusting in each other and ready to confront the unfathomable abyss ahead. With an unsettling grace, Caleb beckoned us into the depths of the night, guiding us toward the library where the stories trapped in the shadows awaited their unveiling. Stay close, I warned softly, squeezing Renata's hand, feeling the warmth radiate even as shadows loomed large. We filed together, stepping one determined foot in front of the other, bound not merely by fear, but by the flickering light of hope intertwined with love, echoing like a promise against a storm of foreboding that as we pushed onward into the dark labyrinth that lay ahead, I knew one undeniable truth. Even the bleakest night would succumb to the dawn, and together we would fight like hell to reach it.